So I'd like to welcome Josh Foulger here with me in the Electronica, Productronica podcast studio on the show floor. It's great to see you here. We've got a lot to discuss. Basically, we're going to be concentrating on electronics manufacturing 2.0 and the future of electronics manufacturing within India. So a real focus on the Indian market with a perspective as well from the sort of global industry. But first, I've had a look at your CV and it's pretty impressive. So I'd just like to delve a little bit into that because without the risk of aging you, I'm sorry if that's what it comes across as, but you, like I said, pretty impressive background and experience through your work at companies like Nokia, Foxconn, and now the president of the electronics section of Zetwerk. Along your career path, when you look back, what have been the highlights or those standout moments that have shaped you into the visionary leader that you are today?
Well, thanks for, first of all, having me here, and it's great to be in this Electronica, Productronica show. I think this is the biggest show we've had in India ever, and so it's definitely it's a sign of India coming of age, and so I'm very happy and privileged to be here. Of course, Kim, a lot of things which shape your life and the direction of your life, and I should say that fairly early on in life, I figured I'll land up, being an engineer. I think so that went without saying. I think for me, getting into manufacturing was probably in my junior year, as you say, in college, or the third year, as we say in India, is when there was a class in advanced manufacturing, which I kind of aced in my class, and that was my calling. And I've now that's been a while ago, and I've sort of held true to that story of being in manufacturing. I quite didn't envision that being electronics manufacturing. I had the privilege of being in an automation startup in Grand Prairie, Texas. And we designed and built a machine for Frito-Lay, who was a client, and that took me around the US. And being in small town USA was an experience. I met some of the most amazing people in my life while working in very advanced technologies, robotics and automation, already there in the mid-90s, was, I'll say, another memorable moment. But I'll say that Nokia was probably the biggest shaper, I will say, in my career. Nokia took me to the world. A lot of us youngsters joined Nokia in the US, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and it really, Nokia was truly a global company, which had supply chain leadership and thought processes, which I think was ahead of its time. And I was privileged to be part of learning from mentors, colleagues, who continue to shape a lot of the electronic supply chain even today. And so we saw the world, so I realized that it's an international game. And you have to be culturally adept. Nokia was a consumer product which was very customer facing, but it was also very supply chain intensive, which was very global. So the word glocal, I learned that you have to be global yet locally relevant. And you have to be world class, regardless of where in the geography you are, whichever part of Americas, whichever part of Europe. And later when I was asked to come and lead the setup of the Nokia operations in India, all of these learnings sort of came into being there. And really being from India, of course, helped me having that cultural context and starting it up. Now the beauty of that was I was truly blessed with an amazing team, who really helped us scale and meet the right yield levels and so on and so forth. So since that exercise, I say that, anything is possible. So I learned that, and to this day, I will say I was privileged to be in the Foxconn group. Now in an Indian startup, rising star, Zetwerk. So we face challenges every day, and I'm happy to say that we can meet all those things. You just need to find a solution. Sometimes you need to take a step back, take a deep breath maybe, and then solve that problem. And again, having the right team with the right focus helps.
Yeah.
And I've always really been blessed to be surrounded by a good team. And I'll say, with all the things going on in the world, I think India becomes a very important part in the global supply chain hub. And I look forward to contributing in this area and see how we can do things better.
Well, there's a number of things you touched upon just now that we'll dig a little bit deeper into. One being obviously the team and the skill set and the whole education system around it specific to India. But when you first came to India to set up the factory here, it was a completely different world at that time. Yet, the world has changed, but also some things have remained the same. There are lots of opportunities, and when we look at now the status quo of electronics manufacturing, but also the future of electronics manufacturing, where we're talking about electronics manufacturing 2.0, which is taking the pure assembly part and expanding that into a full, I suppose, value chain or ecosystem. That seems to be the direction that we're going. I just want to clarify and align maybe with you that there's electronics manufacturing 2.0, but in India there's also EMC 2.0, not to confuse the two, although the two seem to be aligned, so electronics manufacturing clusters. One, the EMC 2.0 seems to be an enabler for electronics manufacturing 2.0. Right. So just for the clarification for the audience, we want to talk about the concept, but also about those enablers that are specific to India. So just going back to those days, what was the Indian electronics manufacturing market like when you first set up your facilities here? What has changed and where are we now?
I think 20 years ago, coming back to India was a homecoming, for me. The challenge in the market was electronics was still underpenetrated. Consumer mobile phones had a penetration rate of 7%. TVs were right about that, even though it has been there for a long time. Consumer durables was again very less. So when you look at across the different ESDM verticals, India's penetration levels was low. So the demand had not yet picked up. I think that's one. And hence, most of the items were imported into the country. Government did not at that point in time see the need to necessarily push for electronics manufacturing at the time. So,
and sorry to interrupt, the world was focusing on China as well to set up there, I guess.
So I think India's focus was also, I think it was pre-China. I think 2005 was pre-China time. I think it was not yet China's sort of time in the sun. I think world was still quite, I should say, diversified and whatnot. And because we had electronics footprint in the Americas, in Europe, and different parts of Asia, not necessarily just China. India was a bit of an experiment at the time, I should say. India was considered a software country at the time, and even though there was about 25, 30 years of automotive legacy here, steel industries, a lot of industries were in play already there. India was considered software, which I sort of disagreed at then and even now. So when we came there, we very quickly understood the gaps. And I had the pleasure of having a global role before this, where I'd worked with all the regional factories, and I'd done a huge transformation before that called Nokia's Assemble to Order, ATO as we called it. So I had connections with our entire global network, experts who can help me do things, which came into play. I also understood what was going to make us successful, in this area. So the parameters were laid out pretty cleverly in a way, and so it was just then bring the cultural context on what will work in India. And so for this, what I did is one of my favorite words is attribute benchmarking. So my benchmarks were not electronics factories because there were very few and far in between at the time. So I benchmarked automotive. I benchmarked CD-ROM player, was a mass manufacturer at the time. A garment, high-end garment manufacturer who was into labor-intensive manufacturing. So all of these sort of local contexts were also getting into the formulation. And so I think we hit upon a very nice formulation or a blend which will work, which had Nokia's global standards in a local context coming into play. I had friends, my colleagues, who pitched in to help. They came over, helped me recruit the right team. But it was all started by the local guys. So the local teams started that. So the magic happened in Sriperumbudur in Chennai, Jan 2nd, 2006. And I can tell you, since then, there's been no turning back in my life. My confidence in India and what the supply chain can do out of India has been up and up, since then. And of course, there's a lot more to do. India is still a sort of a smaller player in the global context. A lot of things have changed, since then. We're now talking about EMS 2.0, which I think is fabulous because that means that we had an EMS 1.0, right? Which goes without saying. And I think the last 10 years of the Make in India program in electronics has been very successful. And we kind of pigeonhole that as EMS 1.0. EMS 2.0, I think is I'll say enabled by many things. The PLI has been a great enabler. So I think the first aspect of EMS 2.0 is the export component, which I think has started now the last 2 years, which I think is propelling the capacity, the sort of the driving towards an India plus mode here. So I think that's the first sort of cornerstone on EMS 2.0. The second one I will say is the component scheme, the ECMS scheme, there, which I think is going to do backward integration or getting deeper into the supply chain, which I think is going to make the cost of goods lower down. When you look at the mechanical bill of material or the electronic bill of material, the idea is to become competitive and reliant. And in today's world, reduce the vulnerabilities of exposing yourself to a single geography or nation. And so that I think is a very important cornerstone. The government is putting its weight behind it. The third cornerstone, I think, is having facilities, land, building, to sort of enable this. And that clarifies your EMC 2.0. So really looking at clusters, which make sense. Where do they make sense? Or what should be components of them, and so on and so forth. So I think that is a very important cornerstone. Here, I think now India has been, and here's what I call it, India 1 and India 2. So India 1 is where we have started. We are in Noida, we are in Chennai, we are in Bangalore, parts of Haryana, closer to the national capital region. But now I think it's going on to the second locations. Gujarat has been added into the supply chain, massive investments going there. We have things happening in Hyderabad. We have things happening in Andhra Pradesh, and so on and so forth. So I think this India 2 and a combination of this EMC 2.0 will be very important, because you give the right footprint, access to talent, etc., and just being a little bit more diversified in your footprint, there. The last I will say sort of cornerstone would be the design bit, which I think is there's no other country which is as ready as India, but there's no other country who's not ready as India in design. Because we are in Bangalore today, and 200 of the top Fortune 250 companies are here in Bangalore. A lot of them have GCCs who have technical work content, doing designs for global things. Yet they don't do a product. They're doing engineering services, right? But the beauty is the talent is available. So design in India is I think the next sort of pillar or cornerstone of this, what I call EMS 2.0. I think if you're able to bring this together, I think it's going to be magic. If you're able to bring the talent who are in GCCs into a product which can be verified on our lines, components sort of qualified based on those designs and made. Now, a forgotten cornerstone is something which is very passionate. I'm a robotics engineer. Build machines, before my time in Nokia. Machines. It's sort of a forgotten bit of this thing. I wouldn't call it a cornerstone yet, but I think it's one more sort of hidden element, there. Now, all of these cornerstones in EMS 2.0 are very important. Question is now, how will we prioritize that? I feel that the government has, with a great start we've had in EMS 1.0. I think this is going to be roadmapped in a nice manner, so that it'll see the light of day. All these aspects. Now some of this will take time, and the good news is the Honorable Prime Minister has given us 25 more years or 23 more years on this Viksit Bharat journey. I think some of them will take a long time, to achieve the perfection, which we need. But I think this is India. I think anything is possible. We just need to kind of put our heads down to it and get it done. So.
Yeah, I think the targets that the Honourable Prime Minister mentioned is a target of 500 billion by the end of this century, at the end of this
decade, in the decade
2030. Certainly ambitious, but also, as you say, achievable. To me, what it seems like is a very strategic approach, a realistic strategic approach, with the support of government, with the support of academia, and the support of industry all pulling together in a vast country with a skilled pool of people. So all the ingredients seem to be there. Like you said, the challenge is how to pull that together. But once you have those ingredients, it's the people that then bake the bread, in a way. So when you have the vision from people like you for your company and for your industry, but also the vision from government, all the building blocks are there, also to attract international interest as well.
Absolutely. No, I think it's. I feel that this overarching vision of having 500 billion, by the financial year, I think it's like probably 2031 is the goal. I think it's a overarching vision which outlays fairly clearly what we want to do, because the domestic market is going to grow, and so we call it the India, and then there is an export play which has been growing in leaps and bounds because of a few global value chains coming into India. and being very successful in it. So you're going to see the India Plus sort of content there. The third element, I think, is going to be the components, which are today imported, which will be localized here. So I think these three things sort of playing together will sort of get or tally up in a way to this 500 billion, which the Honorable Prime Minister has set a target, for the industry to do. Now the beauty is that this target kind of centers people in that direction. It also gets the industry sort of focused on that. It also inspires people. So because at the end of the day, India produces about 7 million engineering graduates, a year, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe the number is lesser now, and a lot of them try to get into the software, which is a great employer, but it employs maybe 5.5 million people today in total. So we are seeing renewed interest in students looking at our area, and so we, at least in Zetwerk, like I've done in the past, we are starting to focus on younger talent. Kids who have gone to diploma school, the 3-year tech program in India, the 4-year engineering graduates who graduate. They come either as interns or straight as GETs, as we call them, graduate engineering trainees. And they really sort of embody this. They work closely hand in hand with experienced people, learn the skills. So having an overriding vision of $500 billion really helps drive the costs down to the people as well. Of course, internationally, I think it's great. I mean, you see this show today, the kind of international interest it has shown is just remarkable. I remember seeing something like this in China, maybe 15, 20 years ago.
Yes.
And so it's great to see that it's happening, here, as well. And so, and so I think, but I think we should just, the important thing for India is just to stay centered in this and just get down to work and get it done.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the key. There is one aspect of the pool of skills that strikes me here in India that I also know that you're very interested in and encouraging, which is when I visit customers or when I walk over the show floor, there is a much greater percentage of female engineers or females within the industry having technical jobs compared to other regions of the world. What do you put that down to? Is India doing enough on that side, or is there more that can be done? And what can the world learn from India to encourage more females into the industry?
I mean, I think, I feel that in 2005, it's probably October, we were in Nokia brainstorming about the buildup of the team. We started to build the team at that time, and that's pretty much what I did day in and day out for about 4 months, is to build the team ground up. And one of the things we kind of got hung up was the associates on the floor. And I'm an engineer, and so I like formulas for everything. And so I asked our HR team, I said that what should be the formula? And I'd seen different ways of working in our global factories in Nokia. And so there was no one way to do this. So we were open, but we wanted to get this right, because it's going to be very, very important. And we couldn't, I mean, there were a lot of suggestions on the table, but nothing could match to the scale which we were expecting. Because we were going to employ about 2,000 people for starters, which nobody in India had done at that time. And so, so that evening I happened to go to my parents' house, and I was sitting in next to my mom. My mom was she retired as a school principal a government school principal, predominantly with girls. And so we had a very short conversation, and she says, "What's going on?" I said, "Well, we're doing all this stuff, and then we're going to recruit some people, and I don't know who to hire, for this particular category or skill set." And she said, "Why don't you hire my girls?" And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "You know exactly what I meant." I said, "All right,
Mothers know best.
And she knew best, and she knew that, and I knew better than to ask her the questions again. And it just computed. I mean, then she went on. She said, "See, listen, the girls clearly are very diligent. There is a level of intellectual honesty about them, but which is, I think, also the same with guys as well. I'm not saying the guys are not good, but the girls don't have the opportunity. And the life turns very differently, especially if you're not from a privileged family." She said, "Maybe you should give them a shot." And I was cooking this idea, and I, of course, me being an engineer, I had to verify this. So I went to a factory in Chennai, which was doing high-end garments for export market, really high-end. And this factory, lo and behold, was an answer to my prayers. Was 1,700 people, all were 100% girls, doing some high-end work on the floor. They were operating 2 shifts at that time. I was just blown away with a very quick answer to my idea, my mom's idea. And so, lo and behold, I walked to my HR head at the time. I said that, "Why don't we try this?" And he said that, "Do you think this is going to work?" I said, "I think so. I've seen this work in other geographies. In our factory in Dallas, in the US, we had ladies working who seemed to be doing okay. I've seen that in China. I've seen that in Korea. I've seen that in Mexico, Brazil as well. And so it's not an unknown bit." So we made it happen. I think the team sort of believed in that idea, made it happen. And we went to the formula of about 90% women. And it was just remarkable. And I'll say this was one of the hallmarks of our pilot, which we did. And we were able to scale this up. We set some high bars, for ourselves and the ladies. And they did really well. And when I joined the Foxconn group, I said, "We're going to up this to 100% girls on the line." Now, the beauty was, and it worked. The beauty was that because of it was 100% associates in the factory floor, we started to see our staff, women in our staff, go down from 10% to about 35% women, which was actually pretty impressive to see the staff also sort of taking up this. Now, this is a story, Kim, which has evolved over 20 years. I think we started something as an idea. Today, I see many people doing the same. Today in my factory in Zetwerk, I can tell you, I just walked into a brand new factory in Chennai, and I saw all the women on the floor were, most of the people on the floor were women. So he asked my ops head, I said that, "Is this a mandate?" He said, "No, Josh, it's just natural." So today it's become natural that women feel comfortable to come and work in this environment and change themselves in a way. And so I feel that this is a great example. Even more remarkable story is in our factory in Noida, the Zetwerk's factory in Noida, where we do consumer products. We have about 40-50% women in our lines. It can be more, is what my team tells me. And it's remarkable because 5-6 years ago, that wasn't the case. And this was a state which had about 9% women's participation in the workforce not too long ago. So there's been a remarkable change in that particular geography in India.
Mm.
So anybody who thinks globally that this is not a thing you can replicate, I will say, please give it a try. I think it's been a remarkable one. And I think people are your backbone. You got to treat them right. And when you treat them right, the results are immediately seen. And it's the little things, sometimes. Skilling is very important. I feel that skilling is a demand problem. Countries like India, people skill themselves with money they don't have, should the demand exist. And so I'm quite bullish about the skill capability which India has. Regardless of women, I don't think you need to have a diversity program in India. I think it just happens naturally. I think you just need to be open. I can coin today, Kim, that India is a full spectrum employer of all types of workforces.
Mm-hmm.
I think engineering, design, talent, right from PhD to master's degree programs, people, technical skill people who I think are a backbone, the associates, we have spades of them. There are a few things we may have to work out because they may or may not be in the neighborhood of the factory. So some assistance, some help for their accommodation helps. In some cases, like in Noida, you don't have to do that. There is enough sort of accommodations available. But if it's not there, accommodations help. One of my former employer has done that in scale, and I'm very proud of that. So I think all these gaps can be filled by doing small calibrations.
Sure. And all of that feeds into the electronics manufacturing 2.0 concept and the clusters that are being built strategically.
Absolutely.
Fascinating talking to you. I think we're well over time that we have been allocated, but it's truly been a fascinating story, listening to the beginnings of your career right through and what you've achieved and what India is achieving. I think we both agree India is full of opportunities going forward. It has the right mix of land, skill, drive, and governmental support to make this happen. So I'm confident it will happen, and I thank you for everything you're doing towards that goal as well.
No, I think it will happen, and I feel that I think the next 5 years are going to be very important, not just for India, but also I think for the world, as the mindset of supply chains is going to sort of take a few steps back, depending on which viewpoint you take. And I think global supply chain planners are going to really think hard. So I think it's very important for planners to look at everything in a right context, and people in India to look at the global needs to make sure that what we put in place is going to be successful, going forward, for the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the chat today, Josh.
My pleasure, Kim. Thank you. You've been a lovely host.
Thank you.
Bye.
We've lost the cameraman.
I have that. I have that voice, which it's called a Sunday morning voice.